we always talk about pride of the Foulkes and who St. Charles is and what we want to be. We want to be proactive. We want to be out there getting things done. And so the whole idea of this whole podcast is to make sure that we're communicating with our citizens of St. Charles. And if we run into obstacles or roadblocks, you're going to hear about it.
Welcome to City Insider, where we have real conversations about the human side of public service. Here in the city of St. Charles, essential services are delivered around the clock to every home and business. And behind each of these vital services is a person and a story. I'm Kara Silva.
And I'm Lisa Garhan. We're the City of St. Charles communications team and hosts of the City Insider podcast.
In this episode of City Insider, we're diving into a hot topic, development. There's no question development in St. Charles has been booming over the last few years. To deepen this discussion today, we have with us three key leaders who are shaping the future of development in St. Charles. Welcome, Mayor Clint Hull.
Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to have you back. City Administrator Heather McGuire.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. And Economic Development Director Derek Conley.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
We're going to look at some major development successes like Whole Foods and Fox Haven Square, and also dissect some of the challenges involved in finalizing deals on large-scale projects like the mall and former Pheasant Run Resort.
Derek, two recent developments have generated a lot of excitement, Whole Foods and Fox Haven Square. Can you walk us through what makes these projects unique?
I think what makes both of these projects unique is that it is going to be an attraction for St. Charles. We are going to have people from outside of St. Charles coming here and spending their tax dollars, which is great for the city. So the Whole Foods, we know that we're going to be drawing residents from Geneva, South Elgin, DeKalb. Those are people coming to our community and spending their money. So I think that's going to be a huge upside to having the Whole Foods there, as far as also just being kind of a huge anchor for our downtown. Even in the time that it's been open, I've just seen so much more activity on like a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday night than we previously would. Hopefully those people are going out and enjoying some of our other downtown businesses, which I think they are. But I think it's just going to be great for our downtown. And with Fox Haven Square, I think it's important to note that we're going to have some really awesome businesses in there. The Harbor House, which is going to be one whole building, and that's going to have the pickleball facility, and it's also kind of like a barcade as well. I think that's going to generate a lot of activity, and it's going to be great for the residents, but then also, again, attract people from outside of St. Charles. But Fire and Wine, Rosebud Steakhouse, Taco Mucho, Fola Bean, Simple EJ's, which is going to be kind of a sports bar concept. Those are also going to be great. And honestly, it's
and those are all part of that Fox Haven Square? Yeah,
they're all already signed up to be part of that development. And really, it was the partnership with the Greco family, who's the developer in this case. Really building that relationship with them was important because they're in the food industry, and they really had those relationships to bring those businesses here to St. Charles. It would have been maybe a little bit of a harder sell without that connection that they had with those businesses. And the only other thing I'll add to that for Fox Haven Square is that we're excited to have something on the east side. I think when I got here 3 years ago, there was kind of the sentiment that there was not really a lot exciting happening on the east side. It's just a lot of car dealerships, which are great from a sales tax revenue standpoint, but this is going to be a project on the east side that I think all the residents can be really excited about.
And I really just want to emphasize what Derek already noted about the Greco family. This is one of the things that I think makes St. Charles really special is we've got so many community members, so many people who have lived here and then chosen to reinvest in the city because they're excited about what the city's becoming, what the city can be, and it's just really great to have those type of people present, and it is continuing to make the city better every day.
So Derek, the big question, why is it taking so long to get the Charlestowne Mall site redeveloped, and what are some of the issues that challenge a quick redevelopment?
I think the first thing to mention is that we have two businesses that are currently active on the site, and that would be the Classic Cinemas and the Von Maur. City staff has been in constant contact with those two companies, and they plan to be part of whatever new development happens at Charlestowne Mall. So I think those are two businesses that add a lot to our community, not just in amenities, but also in property taxes and sales taxes.
And I'll tell you, just as, again, we were talking about the movie theaters in Von Maur. A lot of times I hear what's going to happen to them, and when we say they're going to stay and they want to stay, people are really excited to hear that. When we just got through the 100-degree temperatures, I think there were a lot of people that were shopping at Von Maur and a lot of people that were going to see movies or at the Charlestowne Mall, which I love.
When I got hired in the city of St. Charles, the first person I told said, you better not get rid of Von Maur. So I know that is a very well-loved place in the community.
Yeah, so something that I do tell a lot of people when they ask me about Charlestowne Mall is that this is probably the toughest site that I've ever encountered for redevelopment that wasn't completely environmentally challenged, just because of the nature of what it is in the changing market. So number one, the biggest barrier to development is the cost of development. Our estimates from the Krause companies and other developers that have looked at it is to turn this into a pad-ready site. It's anywhere from $25 million to $40 million to accomplish, and that's just a huge number to overcome.
You say pad-ready. What do you mean pad-ready?
Pad-ready means that it's basically an open field where you can just kind of start going to work. You don't have to do any environmental cleanup. The utilities are already there. Basically, it's kind of like plug and play. You don't have to knock down anything.
Thank you.
If you're a developer, think about, look, I want to do this development in St. Charles. Do I pick this open space that is ready to go, or do I take on the mall, which I'm going to have to come up with a lot of capital just to kind of turn it into pad ready? The wide range from 25 million to 40 million, the reason for that range is it depends on what goes there. There are a lot of challenges with the site. You are going to have to do utility upsizing, utility relocation. There's a lot of grading issues. That's actually a unique issue to our site, our mall here, compared to other ones, is that there's a lot of grading challenges and utilities built into their businesses. And then something that has popped up here recently as another challenge to redevelopment of the mall is interest costs. Interest costs have gone up from our last developer that when they started and they had the property under control in their due diligence period, from the time it ended, insurance rates had completely changed the dynamic of and their financial viability of the project. So really, it's just the costs of development of this site are so high and it's so challenging. That's basically the number one barrier to redevelopment of the mall. On top of that, though, you also have our trade area demographics. So, this has been true for a long time, but it's even more true now, is the developers who are looking at the mall, they're very data driven. They're going to look at the data that's available to them and try to justify whether they can get the right tenants and the right consumers to come visit the mall and attract the right businesses. If you look at a 5-mile trade area around our mall compared to other sites, we have very good disposable income, but we don't have a lot of rooftops. And you think about it in comparison to other communities, we have an airport that's in the area that takes up a large area. And the airport's great. It comes with other advantages, but that means that there's fewer rooftops that are out there and potential people that can go to the mall of any type of development. We also have a lot of forest preserve in the area, which is great. People love forest preserves, but that's also less rooftops. So if you look at the data, we don't quite have the rooftops that make this a no-brainer for developers.
And I think that data is a really important component, because as more data has become available through different mechanisms, these developers, these tenants, these businesses, they know exactly what kind of site they want to locate at. They want to see within that 1 minute, 5 minute, 10-minute drive time how many rooftops there are. They're looking at age, they're looking at gender, they're looking at college education, they're looking at all of these different components that they know where their target market is. And unless that specific area meets that target market, they won't even have conversations. So it's changed the way that development happens, and making sure that we're looking at those demographics and incorporating those into our developments is really important as we engage in planning processes in the city.
So Heather, the city often gets the question, why can't the city just take over the mall and redevelop it? Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I think certainly it would be easier if we could do that. But one, we want to make sure that we're being good financial stewards of taxpayer money is the driver of most of our decisions. But right now that mall is under private ownership. And if the city for some reason was able to purchase that mall, it doesn't end there. It doesn't suddenly turn into a development. We would still need to, one, make sure that we're maintaining that mall site. That includes the interior of the building as well as the exterior. And then ultimately, we're not going to be the developer. So we would still have to sell that. So we're not going to be in any better strategic position by the city owning the mall than we are currently. We have a really good relationship with the developer. We're working with them continually. They are also very responsive to us when we have needs and issues with that site. They are currently spending just under $2 million annually to make sure that they're maintaining that mall site, both the interior and the exterior. When we have had issues, we work with them on that, whether that's potholes, whether that's landscaping, and they are addressing those issues as they come up. So they are making sure that they're investing in that site still. So that's saving the taxpayers money that we would have to spend if we were actually owning that site. So it really does make sense because it's in one developer's hands to continue to work with them to make sure that we get to that final resolution on the site.
And Lisa, it's a great question to ask because anybody that's paying attention to our surrounding communities have read about, what's going on over in West Dundee and what different communities have done. And so we have a mall owner who, when we reach out to him, is responsive and continues to be responsive, wants to see this work in St. Charles. And so, again, one of those things that I hear is, that they're not interested. Obviously they're not interested. That's not true. They're very interested.
So it sounds like you also addressed the comments that we might have heard that the mall is a drain on the city.
Yeah, and I think that from that perspective, financially, it's not. If we were to purchase it, it would be a little bit different of a situation. But right now, we're actually receiving property tax on that site. So that's a net positive to us. We realize that it's not full of tenants right now, so we're not getting sales tax in from what used to exist. But we are having that net benefit income to the city. Right now, we're not managing the landscaping. We're not managing any of the roadways. So there's a lot of things that the owner is responsible for that if we were to own that site, we would in turn be responsible for that we just don't have to spend the money on right now. So right now, we would love to see that site thriving with businesses and people coming into that community. And I think we're going to be working towards that goal ultimately. But at least right now, we're not losing money on that site and we're having that net gain to the city.
Can you kind of just explain a little bit further about the mall ownership? Derek, do you want to pick up this one?
Yeah, sure. So the mall is owned by Ron Kraus almost in its entirety, but not completely. Von Maur actually owns their own pad. And this is something that was actually very, very common with other malls when they were developed. You actually had multiple ownerships. So you had a mall entity that owned the middle of the mall, and then all the different anchors, the Carson Perry Scotts, the Kohl's or the Sears or the Macy's, they owned all their own pads. So you had multiple ownerships. So right now, we're a little bit lucky in the regard that we actually only have two ownerships, Von Maur and the mall ownership that owns basically everything else.
And just as a quick note, too, I think that it's important to note that the development world has changed. We've all been pivoting since the 2008 crash, then COVID happened, and the world has changed, and that includes the development world. So as we're approaching developments maybe the way that we did a decade ago, they're either not effective or the market's different. So we're trying to pivot with Kraus companies to figure out what is going to work for this site and how we get that done.
One of the things that we do and we really pride ourselves on is being responsive to the community. And so we've heard from people in the neighborhoods over on the east side about the amount of traffic and how traffic's increased. And so, that input and receiving the input from them is really, really important. And so that's part of this process as well, because we go through and Kraus and Company comes through with different ideas. We want to engage the citizens of St. Charles. We want to engage the people that are going to be impacted to see, what can we do to try to address concerns that they have. You're not going to be able to address every concern, but you certainly want to listen and you want to try to make sure that you understand the concerns. They've indicated that they want to listen.
So there is a thorough review process for these large-scale developments. Derek, could you speak a little bit about the development process in St. Charles?
Yeah, so redevelopment of the mall, this is not something that is just going to kind of sneak by and pop up. It's going to require several public meetings to occur before anything is approved. And it's a good opportunity just to talk about our concept review process. So this is something that we do for a lot of our developments. And that is where there is no official approval that the developer is seeking. They're really only looking for feedback. So our concept review process is really two meetings. Really, they go through the plan commission and then our planning and development committee, which consists of majority of our city council. And really, it's just, hey, this is our idea. This is what we're looking to do. What do you like? What you don't like? The intent is to kind of get that initial feedback before they invest a lot of money into one idea only to be told, no, we really don't like it. So they take that feedback and then they basically go back to the drawing board. and then come back with a more formal proposal if they want to proceed with the project. But what happens is a lot of times, this is something that gets caught up in social media or the newspaper, and people think it's happening, it's moving forward, when in actuality, it's just the first step in a long process. But if the project is proceeding, they go through the entitlement process. And then again, it is presented to Planning and Development Committee, and then City Council.
Mayor Hull, I have to ask you, I'm looking at your face and it looks like you have something to say. Would you like to let us know what's on your mind?
Well, I just, when we hear about the amount of time it's going to take and all the different steps and the complexities of the site, you may get to a point, or I get to a point where it's just, wow, haven't we been here before, and how long is this going to take? And is it hard? Absolutely, it's hard. But you know what? We always talk about pride of the Foulkes and who St. Charles is and what we want to be. We want to be proactive. We want to be out there getting things done. And so it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. They've explained why. So my facial expression is probably from a standpoint is, is it hard to hear that? It is. Do we want it done today? We do. Is it going to get done today? No. But as long as we're making steps in the right direction, which we are, the whole idea of this whole podcast is to make sure that we're communicating with our citizens of St. Charles. This is something they want to hear about. And I'm so appreciative that the two of you and that Heather and Derek has set this up so that we can talk to St. Charles about the Charlestowne Mall. And we're going to continue to do that. And if we run into obstacles or roadblocks, you're going to hear about it.
Heather, there have been many concepts over the years of different developments pitched for the site. Could you walk us through some of those earlier ideas for Charlestowne Mall?
The site came to be what it is today is because when the owners bought it from the original heyday of what the mall was, they stopped renewing the leases. So as a single tenant would leave, that would become a vacant site. And I think those mall owners were trying to get something exciting in there to continue the economic activity that was going on. So I think at that point, they were looking for anything and everything that might fill the site and draw some visitors in. And I think that was irrespective of whether or not it made sense or there was actually somebody that could produce that concept.
Just piggybacking off of that, I know this question comes up a lot as well, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit. Redevelopment of former mall sites in nearby communities like Yorktown and Lombard and Fox Valley and Aurora. For the benefit of our listeners, could you explain what those developments include and why you feel something similar would or not work in St. Charles, or at least elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I think every one of those sites is a little bit different and a little bit nuanced, and there is unfortunately no apples to apples comparison. We've got a multi-level mall site. With that comes utilities that are actually built into that upper story that becomes really complicated to just demolish and create, as he called, a pad-ready site or that level field for somebody to develop. So we've got that complication. We've also got a situation where Von Maur owns their actual building site that they're located on. So it's not just a matter of one owner selling the entire development, the entire area to another owner. We just have to be considerate and mindful of those costs and the complications that are associated with that. So it is taking a lot more effort and creativity to figure out how we make that work and different options that can incorporate either that second story in or figure out how to make it financially feasible. And then the other issue that a lot of the other cities have faced or been able to utilize to their advantage is the fact that there were so many different ownership groups involved in those mall sites. They had multiple owners trying to consolidate those in order to be able to market it to eventually one developer. We do have a single developer. That's working in our interest because somebody can come in, talk with one person, and figure out a concept plan that really does work for the full site. So where they had challenges, that we're working with a developer that already owns it, so we're not having to figure out how to solve some of those issues that I think is ultimately going to be a help for us.
Unless there's anything else anyone wants to add, I'm going to switch gears here. Mayor, this one's for you. Another potential redevelopment site on residents' radar is the former police station on the Fox River in downtown St. Charles. What do you think would be a good use of that site?
Well, when we talk about prioritizing projects, right, we talk about how important Charlestowne Mall, and then we talk about the redevelopment of the old police station site, and that's another one that's on our radar and that we're focused on. When we talk about the uses, I think that a thing that the city did that I'm very happy that the city decided to do, it was to commission a feasibility study to be done. Because before we can even talk about what are good uses, we need to understand through that feasibility study what the site can support. And so I think that to get that feasibility study, to take a look at what the site can support, is going to be the first step to figuring out what the appropriate use is. And so that's going to be done here. And it's my understanding that that's going to be done here, and we're going to get that maybe August, September. So that's a great first step. The next thing is what we learned through the last process, and what we talk about again is how important it is to engage our community. And so part of the process of what's going to go there, we need to reach out, and people have a lot of different ideas. Listen, there are people that would love to see that stay exactly as it is. I was telling Derek and Heather, I come in the morning and I leave City Hall at night, and people are sitting in the chairs and they're looking at the river and they're reading books, and it's just fantastic. So there's people that would like to see it just remain as is. And there's other people that would like to see a commercial development down there. And so, again, it goes back to just from a feasibility standpoint what we're going to do.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add to that is once the feasibility study is complete and out there, the city did actually budget for a consultant to come in to do some type of public engagement, because that is going to be a very important component to this. We want to have a development there that the community is going to be behind. So getting that input as far as what development should go there and what would be supportive is very important to us, and we intend to go down that path.
The East Side has been a target for development for a while. In the last few years, we've seen new retail, industrial, and residential projects out there. Heather, can you walk us through what has happened with the former Pheasant Run Resort site?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Pheasant Run has such positive memories for everybody in the city, and we're really excited about what that could become for some new memories in the city. While there were some challenges after the previous ownership, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, but the ownership group that owned it was out of Florida. They were a hedge fund that really didn't have a local connection. So it became difficult to figure out how to get some movement on that site and figure out what was going on. So once that fire happened and we were able as a city to step in and go to court, get that site demolished, the really exciting piece of that was we've got it down. It was at no cost to the city. And now we've got a developer who's interested in developing it. They purchased the site. They are currently working with some tenants. They've talked to the city about some potential ideas and uses. We're not quite to that concept level yet, but we are hopeful that they are going to be going through it this year, and we're going to be looking to make that a really exciting thing on our eastern gateway to the city. As you're entering St. Charles, something new that we can look forward to.
Derek, can you share some insights on, what these larger development projects, like we've been discussing, what they bring to the community in terms of economic growth, lifestyle improvements, or long-term impact for our residents and businesses?
Yeah, these larger development projects, they really are opportunities for the city to really add something as far as amenities go. We want something that's going to be of interest of our residents, something that they can go to and enjoy themselves. I think it's also just important to note that development attracts future development. So when we have a lot of development coming into the city, that catches the eye of other developers or businesses, and they want to be here. And not just businesses, it goes to residents too. And I think that's something that we're actually starting to see now is that, when you have a Whole Foods in your downtown, that's going to be something that other businesses are going to say, hey, you know what, I want to be close to that Whole Foods. And then also with residents. And I've actually seen online on Zillow, looking around the downtown, people actually put on their things like, is 5-minute walking distance from Whole Foods. So those type of amenities really kind of lift up the entire community.
So we're going to wrap it up here. For our final question, one that we end with all of our guests, do you have a personal philosophy or guiding principle that helps shape the way that you lead St. Charles? Heather, I'd love to start with you.
Thank you. We will probably start with going back to the strategic plan and this idea of thoughtful development. And both the previous and current city council and mayors have done a really good job of prioritizing the necessary funds and resources to make sure that we are making the city what it needs to be. And by that, I mean making sure that we're listening to the residents, making sure that we're listening to the developers that have made the city what it is. So by continuing to do those type of things and showing people that we care about the city, we love the city, and we want to make the city better, it is in turn drawing more people into the city, both to live and to develop their businesses. And I think that's what continues to make the city thrive.
How about you, Derek?
Something that I think is very important for cities to do is reinvest in themselves. And I think that is something that the city of St. Charles has honestly done for decades because it's that reinvestment that is going to keep that momentum moving forward to get more residents and more businesses here. So you kind of have to keep the ball rolling in that regard. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here in St. Charles. When I saw the job opening, I actually was like, wow, this is a city that is really reinvested in itself. And I think that's something that we need to continue to do in the future.
Mayor Hull, since this is your second time on the show, and we asked you this last time, I'd love to actually ask you now, what's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Right now I think that there's a couple things that come to mind that are super simple. One is treat people with kindness. With everything that's going on, it's just so important that we treat people well, and that includes our staff, our citizens, our businesses. Not hard to do. And as we've talked about, we are so blessed to live in St. Charles. We're so blessed to have the community that we do. And so in the end, there's always a lot of issues that we got to work through. But when you treat people with kindness, it makes it a lot easier. And I've seen that and examples of that each and every day. And the second one is to surround yourself with people that are smarter than yourself. I've done that in this podcast. But, what you have to do is you have to build a good team. And part of that team is recognizing your strengths and then others where you need expertise. And when we're talking about development, we're talking about the Charlestowne Mall, we're talking about the old police station site, these are complex issues. So you surround yourself with people that are smarter than yourselves. You listen, you learn, and that's what's going to get these types of projects done. So I really appreciate you asking.
Well, that's all we have. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Mayor Hull, Heather, Derek, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing your insights with us and our listeners. We appreciate it, and we wish you great success. Thanks a lot.
For having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for our next segment, Inside City Hall, where we talk with Ward 1 Alderpersons Ron Silkaitis and Mark Foulkes to find out more about wonderful Ward 1. In this segment, Inside City Hall, we introduce our listeners to the people elected to serve St. Charles. They are residents of the community, chosen to lead our city and help shape its future. St. Charles City Council includes 10 alderpersons, 2 from each of the city's 5 wards. 2 alderpersons are elected to represent their ward on the City Council and serve staggered 4-year terms. City Council is responsible for establishing policy, passing ordinances, and adopting the budget.
So today we are discussing Ward 1 with its representatives. Welcome Ward 1 Alderpersons Ron Silkaitis.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. And Mark Foulkes, happy to have you with us.
Yeah, good afternoon. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us both.
All right, so Ward 1 is generally located in the southeast portion of the city and is home to residential areas and amenities like the East Side Sports Complex, Munn Hall and Fox Ridge Elementary Schools, and several commercial, retail, and industrial businesses. So before we talk about your ward, let's get to know each of you a little bit better. So Ron, let's start with you. You're a lifelong resident. You have served as alderperson for many years. What else should people know about you?
Well, one of the things I like to do is I like to fix stuff. I enjoy taking stuff apart, figuring out why something has failed, and putting it back together so it works. I've done that since I was very young, and I still do it today. As an example, I have several pinball machines at home, so I'm always putting them back together, taking them apart, and trying to find parts for them to fix them. So yeah, that's what I enjoy doing.
Oh, that's fun.
It sounds like a great hobby. I actually just went and played pinball last night with my kids. So
really?
Yeah, for the first time. They've never played before, so very fun.
I was going to say, I bet some of those vintage machines, pretty cool. Probably
I have mine they're off from the 70s.
Oh, nice. Any standouts?
Star Trek, the original series.
Ooh.
That was one of the earliest computerized pinball machines. I have Surf Champ, which is my first machine I bought 45 years ago at an pinball auction. And I have Lawman, too, that I purchased. All of them have been purchased at amusement machine auctions over the years.
That's awesome. Mark, you're also a lifelong resident and a teacher and a coach at School District 303, as well as a member of the Kane County Baseball League Advisory Board. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as you said, I've lived here my whole life. I've been a teacher at Redling Middle School. I just finished my 25th year, going into my 26th
Congrats.
year. Yeah, thanks. It feels weird being the old person in the building now. I've been coaching baseball at St. Charles East for this. I'll be going into my 25th year doing that. And I do cross country and basketball up there. So that usually occupies, along with city council now, a lot of my time in a good way.
Yeah.
Because when my wife and I lived out in Sugar Grove for about 7 years, and then we moved back here in 2016. And there was always that idea to somehow get back involved with the city in some way, shape, or form. So it's been great to be an alderperson here. And when I'm not doing those things, I just love going to my kids' events. My oldest daughter is going to be a junior at East. She plays soccer. And my sophomore daughter is on the dance team at St. Charles East and also dances at Beth Fowler. So between being teacher, coach, I love being more though soccer dad and dance dad. That's what I like.
And also
doing.
Chauffeur, probably.
Big time chauffeur. Yes. I wish the Uber pay for them was equal for what Uber drivers get. But no, I love every minute of being a dad to my daughters and being back here in town.
So, Ron, you have a special responsibility on City Council, having been appointed as Mayor Pro Tem by Mayor Clint Hull. Could you explain what that means?
Well, first off, I was very honored to be appointed by Mayor Clint Hull. I'm very happy about that. Well, basically, my job is to act. I'm filling in for the mayor when the mayor is unavailable. I run and facilitate the city council meetings, and I attend events such as ribbon cuttings for new businesses in town and any other things that need to be handled in St. Charles. So while he's gone,
you keep things running.
I keep things running, exactly, and I make sure I do my best at this position.
So, Ron, is there an issue that constituents frequently contact you about that maybe you want to talk about today?
Well, one of the biggest issues, I think Marco will agree, is speeding in our ward, which I'm sure it's a citywide problem too, but since we're talking about the first ward, yes, there's definitely a concern with speeding in St. Charles. And we try to address it. I do the best I can. You know, they do put speed monitors on the streets, you know, to help and everything. But it's an ongoing problem, and I know we can't have police every corner. So I get that. I understand that. But I just, you know, we're going to see what we can do to keep improving the situation. And the other thing is the redevelopment of the Pheasant Run Resort. So that's another thing that people ask me about, and it's a work in progress, you know, and we're hoping to get something done soon, but sometimes these are multi-million-dollar projects, and it takes a while to get everything lined up so we can start digging.
So, Mark, you've served on City Council since 2023.
Yes.
And have been appointed Vice Chair of the Government Operations Committee. So what does the Government Operations Committee do, and what is your role as Vice Chair?
So with government operations, we really are dealing with our city's bills. So I have the privilege, if you want to say, of co-signing basically all of our bills with Alderperson Weber. He's the chair, so he chairs all of our meetings, and when an item comes up, he introduces the item, and then somebody will speak on that item. So if Alderperson Weber isn't there for some reason, he has a family commitment, whatnot, work commitment, as vice chair, I would then run the meeting and present those items and see if there's discussion before we take a vote on them. But it's been a pretty cool, interesting process looking through those things and seeing all of the aspects of what goes into like our operations for our city. It is impressive, and it is impressive how well it's done through our public works, through our police, through our fire. It is a very well-oiled machine that, you know, there's that line like, boy, and until you know, you're never going to look at the show the same again once you know the chaos behind the curtain. This is a prime example of that, being in the positions that myself and Alderperson Silkaitis are in, and how well our city managers and directors really do things. It's very impressive.
So I'll ask you the same question too. What do you hear from your residents about?
Mainly the speeding is one. Speeding's the big one, but then also, you know, and I say some of these kind of jokingly, like, "Hey, when are we getting a Mariano's? When are we getting a Cane's? When are we getting?" Now my daughters want Seven Brew. I don't know if you've heard of Seven Brew.
Yes, I have.
It's this coffee place, and the one's in Naperville. We drove 45 minutes to it. It was great, but she's like, "Dad, when can we get one?" I'm like, "Well, this isn't how this works." But a lot of residents would love to see different franchises, restaurants come through here, and our economic director, Conley, he does a wonderful job attracting talent. He really has, and it's just a matter of space, interest, those types of things. I mean, I know both of our residents, I don't want to speak for you, they were very happy when Chick-fil-A opened.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like, all right, Chick-fil-A's here. And then obviously now with Chipotle going through a drive-through right across the street, that's beneficial. But I'd say the biggest complaint was speeding, but at one point, and I'm not trying to talk badly, was Smithfield, the smell at Smithfield plant that's there. But they've done a wonderful job being responsive, and I think over the past 2 summers, I haven't received one complaint. So it was nice that they heard our voice and knew there was a problem and were willing to work on it.
So basically, everybody should slow down a little bit, huh?
Yes,
that'd be good. That would be very helpful.
Nice if they did, and we hope they're listening, and they hope they do.
Right.
All right, so let's bring Ward 1 into the conversation now and give you both some time to brag about your ward. So, Mark, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes Ward 1 so special?
What makes it really so special is it's unique in the fact that we have the industrial part of our ward. So there's some wonderful businesses that have been throughout that area for a number of years, one being like Zimmerman. Well, I'm still thinking of it as Zimmerman Ford. Now it's Hawk Ford, one of the originals to come in. And then obviously we have Colonial Cafe right there in our ward as well. But there's some wonderful new businesses as well, one being the Hairy Ant run by Anthony Harrison, and then Trend and Relic, which my wife loves to go to, is in walking distance from our home if we ever want to, which is great. So our ward has a lot of wonderful businesses, but it just has a lot of wonderful people who are always willing to kind of look out for each other. It's when I was campaigning a couple years ago, how open people were just to saying hi, how easily they could have just seen some stranger at their door and shut it, but they were so willing to be like, hey, who are you? What are you about? That really impressed me the most about it. So those are the two things. And obviously the schools that are in the ward, I think are throughout the district are great too. But personally, my kids went through Munn Hall, loved it. They had a wonderful experience there. And I know a lot of my friends had their kids go through Fox Ridge, which is great too. So, brag about those things a little bit. That's why I look at it and it's like, yeah, we'll stick our chest out a little bit there for that.
So is there an interesting fact, historic note, or a bit of trivia people should know about Ward 1? And Ron, this one's for you.
Well, thank you. Yes. Well, one of the things that I don't know if anybody knows, but there's a small cemetery at 7th Avenue in Madison. That was actually founded in 1815. Some of the earliest settlers that we have, including Elvin Shelby, who was buried there in 1833. In fact, there was an elementary school named after her, Shelby School on 4th Street there, which I went to kindergarten there, actually. Oh. But the other thing is, there's also Civil War veterans there who are buried there. There are at least 10 that are buried there, and those 10 actually fought in the battles of Gettysburg and Bull Run. And they're buried there. And there are 7 more. They believe there are 7 more there, but they're unmarked graves. And it's fun to walk around there. Me and my wife have walked around there before, just looking at the gravestones. Some of them are very weathered, so you really can't tell what it is. But yeah, that's something that is unique in St. Charles. Now, also right across the street, 7th Avenue, going west, was Camp Kane, which is also the training facility for part of the Civil War. So we do have some Civil War history in St. Charles, which I think is amazing.
That is amazing.
It's very cool. So 7th and Madison, the cemetery there.
7th and Madison.
Good to know.
Well, you both presented the very first Spirit of St. Charles Awards at a recent City Council meeting to some deserving recipients in your wards. Tell us about who you chose to recognize that night.
Well, I chose Steve Martin, who's like Mark and myself, a lifelong resident of St. Charles. And I thought he's been very active in the community, volunteering all the time. He still goes out and volunteers to this day. And I thought he was the perfect person to be the first one to be honored in the first ward of St. Charles. I was very happy to present it to him that night.
Yeah. I think we set the bar pretty high with that one. We got done with that one, and the rest of the alder people were looking at us like, ooh, well done. I know. Well done. Yeah, so I had the honor of presenting the youth, and it was a student named Nate Moline, who is going to be a senior at St. Charles East. Outstanding student. He has like a 3.62 GPA on a 4 scale. Taking mainly AP classes. He's an athlete. He's working toward his Eagle Scout. So we just tried to find somebody who was pretty well-rounded. And then for Mayor Hull was like, hey, try to find a business. And we talked for a couple weeks about different businesses. Like, what do you think? What do you think? And then before City Council meeting, Alderperson Silkaitis was like, hey, what about Duquesne? And ironically, we both played Little League with the Duquesne logo on our shirt. So we were both like, oh my gosh, Duquesne, which has been in St. Charles for a number of years. And they've been a wonderful partner. Their signs are probably one of the most entertaining parts as you move up and down Kirk Road. So we were happy that Mr. Johnson, who's the CEO of the Duquesne Corp, was able to make it out that night to see the award. And what a fun night that was, presenting not only those awards, and I don't know if Mayor Hull mentioned, honoring Bob Liking that night as well for his accomplishments. But it was nice to see like the community of St. Charles right there front and center, and having a very positive feeling at a city council meeting, which was I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You're right. And standing room only that night
Standing
too.
room only. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
So, Mark, what's the best way for Ward 1 residents to contact you?
Basically, I mean, two ways are great. One's my phone number, which is on the city website, along with my city email. I check my email often, return calls when they can. But any question a resident has, we have wonderful people that we go to for our answers. And that's what I said, like, hey, I'm going to be asking this person. Give me a few days. They'll get back to us. It might not. You're going to get an answer. I don't know if it's going to be one you want to hear, but you're going to get an answer. But we have wonderful people. Starting with, Heather McGuire at the top, and then the director, she works through that, really do try to find a great solution for residents.
And Ron?
Well, same thing. For my phone number and my email are both on the city website. Always welcoming anybody who wants to talk or email me. I'm more than welcome to talk to anybody.
All right. And for our final question, and one that we end with all of our guests, do you have a personal philosophy or guiding principle that helps shape the way that you lead St. Charles? And Mark, how about we start with you?
Yeah, it's a little one that my grandfather had when he was an alderperson. And he told this, and at first I kind of laughed. I'm like, this is impossible. He goes, I've never lied in my life. He goes, because then I never have to remember what I said. So if I said it, I said it, and I'll have to own it. And I've kind of hybrid that, but it's like, listen, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to have stances on things. We're going to politely agree to disagree. I'm always open to hearing other people's thoughts, but let's work for the most logical solution. And if we can do that collaboratively, we can keep St. Charles moving in the positive direction that we all want to see it moving in, keeping its charm that it has, its roots that it has, but also helping it move forward.
Ron, how about you?
Well, actually, it has to do with honesty, transparency, and I said always willing to listen to everybody. I'll listen to anybody's opinion, even if I don't agree with it, or I may not like it, but I will always listen to it. And then ultimately, it is our responsibility to vote however we believe is necessary. But I also believe to do whatever's best for St. Charles, and that's it. Not just do what's the best for the city. That's my main philosophy.
Alderpersons Ron Silkaitis and Mark Foulkes, thank you for joining us today and sharing information about the First Ward with our listeners.
Well, thank you for having us, Dave. Really appreciate it. It was nice chatting with everybody here, and I'm hoping people will listen to this and know more about us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Anything we can do to make ourselves more transparent to the city, thank you for having us and giving us this opportunity.
Well, that's it for this episode of City Insider, the limited series podcast where we explore the human side of public service in the city of St. Charles. Thanks to the St. Charles Public Library for the use of their sound studio, and thank you for listening.